Happy holidays! Michael here. Hi everybody. As you can see, we're getting ready for Christmas, but we celebrate two holidays here because I'm Jewish. So we also celebrate Hanukkah. Here's a menorah. But Hanukkah is not a holiday of peace. It's a holiday of war. And there's still war in Israel today. October 7th, 2023. You may not know that date instinctively, but you know 9/11 and you know December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Those are U.S. dates where we've been attacked. But Israel was attacked in a massive way on October 7th, and that has led to some of the protests you've seen on college campuses, where you have intimidation of Jewish students, or did. And outside of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee's own convention in August, when Kamala Harris was getting her nomination, right outside in Chicago, there were protesters there, saying, why is Israel being anti-human with all those missiles and people being killed in the West Bank, where Hamas is? Well, what happened on October 7th was Hamas from the West Bank. That's their government leadership. And you think of it as their political party, their Democrat or Republican political party. They're in control there. And the Palestinian people live there in the West Bank. It's this little area. And what happened was the military of Hamas paraglided like an air force into areas of Israel. And they slaughtered 1,200 civilians. They were not going after the Israeli military in this attack. What they did go after, however, were not just those people that they killed, but also hostages that they took back to the West Bank, at least 200 of them. And not just Israeli civilians, but also American citizens, who, and 200 of them that were killed were just at a concert that was there. So these people knew where they were going, and they executed a very well-planned sneak attack, and they were only pushed back to the West Bank by the Israeli military, and then went house to house. So what happened? What did Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader, the prime minister of Israel, do? Well, this was a red line for Israel. And this went beyond just the prime minister. The entire cabinet now got together and unanimously decided, this is now total war. Hamas had to go. This wasn't going to now be a tit for tat, you killed 20 of our civilians in a rocket attack, or attacks from the north from Hezbollah, where they kill certain people and you could kill maybe 5 more of them, and then it just ends, or you have an incursion to get, to make clear to your enemies, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah from the north again, that you mean business and to knock it off. This was now total war. So what they do is, they start off with airstrikes, but they're going to have a ground invasion. And that takes time, effort, and it's ongoing. And it's not going to be done in 3 months or 6 months. It's been way over a year since October 7th, 2023. Although now it is starting to wind down a bit, and we'll get into that. But you're thinking, well, how big is the West Bank? How hard should this be to win? And I'll tell you, the West Bank is not very big at all. If you look at it on a map, it's this small little strip of land in southwestern Israel that is right next to the Mediterranean Sea. It's mostly an urban area, but it's just not that many square miles. It's right north of Egypt. And you would think, well, go in there with tanks, win, and withdraw. That shouldn't take that long. Well, it does. Because urban warfare can be very hard, especially when your enemy Hamas, the leadership, the government of the West Bank, has had tens of years to dig tunnels that connect schools to hospitals to areas underground where they can hide weaponry, hide rocket systems, be able to move their personnel around or their military people around or their high command around where they have their headquarters. They can be under hospitals or in hospitals. They can be in schools because they have also the support of the Palestinian people. Hamas, you're thinking, well, it's a terrorist organization. The United States itself lists Hamas not just as the government of the West Bank, but as a terrorist organization in and of itself. And so does Israel. And so what happens is Israel goes in, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a long time because you do have to go into those tunnels, root people out, try to get hostages out. And you're going after them, and they'll kill some of the hostages if they see the Israeli soldiers come in, and they'll just kill them. And what they got the hostages for was specifically pre-planned as a bargaining chip to have a ceasefire, because they knew Israel was going to come after them for the incursion that they tried to pull off, right? And killing, and they did pull off in that sneak attack. And they thought that they could end it with hostage negotiations. Well, that wasn't going to happen this time. Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government collectively decided this was now total war. Hamas had to be wiped out. They were too dangerous, and it didn't matter if it escalated into Hezbollah firing rockets at them from the north, which they did. And even Iran shooting rockets at them if that happened too, because Hamas is a proxy, which means they're getting their weaponry. And I don't just mean the rockets. I mean ammo, I mean, military help from Iran, which you're going to say, well, that's pretty far away. Well, they can go all the way. They have ships. They can go all the way, and they have ways of getting things to Hamas and their other proxy, Hezbollah, or the Houthis in Yemen. You're going to say Yemen, what does that have anything to do with this? Well, they've been firing drones into the Red Sea, and they've been firing drones with missiles attached to them at Israel. And Israel's responded back. So this is a multi-front war for Israel. It's not just the West Bank they have to worry about. So it's multi-front, and they're willing to fight this war, and they can do it. You're going to say, well, that's pretty hard to fight on this front and that front and that front and this front, and usually it is. Germany can tell you that because they lost World War II. When Russia was coming from this side and the US is coming from that side, and Britain and France are joining them, it's very hard. But the United States, we're giving weapons to Israel, and we provide them with an Iron Dome, which is when there are rockets shot into Israel, they're shot down, most of them, not all of them. And these groups know that, so they've got to overwhelm Israel's system. They've got to fire hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rockets at Israel to get a decent amount of them through and kill people. And they do. And they have. But we keep providing them the weaponry, and we back them, and we'll send our submarines on them to try to deter Iran into the area, and we'll send battleships in there to try to show that Israel is not alone in this war. They have an ally. But most of the world is not on Israel's side in this. But fortunately for Israel, they have both political parties of the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats, who are backing Israel as they're our greatest ally in the Middle East, by far. It's not even close. So, again, Israel is attacking at schools, but you're going to say, well, Are they just having fun killing kids? Because that's what they're reporting in the media. That's the propaganda Hamas is putting out. Oh, 30 people were killed at a school or in a hospital. Well, the Mossad, their CIA, Israel's, knows where the bad guys to them are. Not the Palestinian civilians, where the military is, the people that want to do them harm. And they're in these civilian areas. So they have to go there, not just into the tunnels. They can't just go into the tunnels. They have to go to where the bad guys are, where their enemy is. So what happens is it looks really bad on camera. And they can say, well, Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. And look at it, 30 people in this hospital died because the Israeli military with U.S. equipment dropped bombs, through a window, and civilians died also. Well, that's what Hamas counts on. They count on having human shields, meaning they know Israel cares about civilians, people just living their lives, the Palestinians, in this case, in the West Bank. Or in other countries, when they are doing something against Hezbollah, their enemies to the north were firing those missiles at them, and they killed at least 10 to 20 people just playing on a soccer field in northern Israel. When they attack back, they attack as targetedly as possible, but civilians are always killed in war. You can't avoid it. During World War II, if you thought when we were bombing Dresden in Germany that civilians just living there weren't getting killed by the thousands or much more than that, you're fooling yourself. I mean, that's just the way it is in war. Civilians die, unfortunately. And if you think that Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, where the atomic bombs were dropped, were just military outposts where no civilians were killed, once again, that's just not true. It's killed so many people, but we didn't want Americans to have to go in and die, and by the tens or hundreds of thousands to finally win that war against Japan. And so we made a strategic decision. So wars unavoidably kill the innocent, which is the tragedy of war and why we want peace. And that is what Israel wants. And you may say, especially if you're over a certain age, well, I've heard of this two-state solution. Why doesn't that just happen? Why can't the Palestinians just have the West Bank and the other areas there, and have Israel as Israel, and they all just live in peace, and they're all recognized as states and not be called occupied territories, as some in the U.S., some of our own Congress people call them? Well, first of all, in Hamas's area, that is not occupied. Israel pulled out in 2006. It's only Palestinians living there. Yes, there are walls to cut off the inflow to Israel, but Israelis are not there. It's not an occupied land. So why isn't there just peace? It's because the Palestinians do not, and some of the Muslim world, a lot of it, does not want peace with Israel. On their maps, as a matter of fact, and from the time they're children, Palestinian children are taught that Israel does not exist, literally from the river to the sea. And what that means is the Jordan River all the way to the Mediterranean Sea, there's nothing but what's called Palestine. And that's what's on their maps. There is no Israel on their maps. And it's non-negotiable to the Palestinians. So there will never be peace there. It's not possible. They both want the same land, and it's never going to happen, and it's been going on for thousands of years. But Israel is a state, and it's going to exist forever. And the Palestinians are going to want it forever. So even if Israel wins, which is what it's doing, it's winning in Hamas's territory, in that little strip of land there. And because they've killed most of the leadership, as a matter of fact, they killed one of the leaders of Hamas in Iran, which led Iran to shoot 180 missiles later on, and some missiles at the time, at Israel itself, from Iran. They killed him in an apartment building there, the Mossad information. So Israel has reach. I mean, they even reached there. And when they were attacked, they attacked back at Iran. So Iran knows, and Hezbollah now knows, because Israel has a ground invasion going on there, which is just recently stopping now, because there finally is a peace plan that the U.S. and France has made with Israel. Notice, not Hezbollah, not their enemy, that Hezbollah has to retreat all of their military personnel, all of the weaponry they have, 20 miles north to the Labinsk River. Literally, they cannot be there. It's too close. These rockets have to be pushed back so they're not a threat to Israel. And that has been signed. And 10,000 Lebanese soldiers are being deployed there even as we speak, but they have to get this done in 60 days. So supposedly this will work out, but it has to work out, or Israel will have to invade it again, and they're going to have to be pushed up that 20 miles because Israel needs a buffer zone, and they're going to get it. And this should take effect because Lebanon wants this to stop, and Hezbollah will be pushed back. And Hamas also, again, this is a winding down operation. Most of the leadership and the military there has been defeated. And although the Palestinian people there may harbor ill will towards Israel still, militarily, they cannot sustain a war against Israel anymore. They've been massively decreased, and although Israel may not truly be able to get rid of Hamas totally, they will be able to put in security zones, and really Hezbollah will be all but defanged of their weapons by the time Israel pulls out. So even if they exist in some way, the Palestinian people are going to have to put in some government there along with Hamas to get along at least for a while with Israel and not be shooting rockets at it and not kill people, or Israel's going to have to go in again. And this lesson now has been learned by not just Hamas and Iran, but the Palestinian people living there, because Israel now has gone in and not just done a tit for tat, and they're still there, and they won't leave until it's secure. And that's going to mean a Hamas, if they survive at all, to be much less effective militarily and have much less access to weapons from Iran. And Iran knows this too. Iran knows it's been defeated. It's not a mystery. They're not continuing to shoot missiles at Israel. And notice, Iran never went in with tanks. You know why? Because they couldn't get them there. They don't have the ability the U.S. does to just put things on aircraft carriers or uh, send people through, truly through, Iraq and Syria into Israel and not be destroyed on the way. They never even tried it. They can't. They would be defeated. And they would lose any tanks they have. They can't do it. And they also can't throw so much at Israel that Israel would even think of attacking with a nuclear weapon, which kind of we all know they have, but they're not going to use, as long as humanly possible. So that's the story of October 7th and the war that is winding down. You are not going to have a formal peace plan with Hamas, just like we're not with Hezbollah. But you can have an armistice, a truce for a while. And Iran is never going to also sign, the head of the snake is never going to sign a peace plan with Israel. But they have learned a valuable lesson now also, which is Israel will not be restrained when it comes under a threat so great that their very existence is at stake, like what happened on October 7th, something that massive. So my take, and I'll give you it now at the end, is that for a generation at this point, we are going to see the most, quote, peace we've ever seen between Israel and its neighbors. You are not going to see another October 7th. Not in my lifetime. What you will see is, again, just an armistice. Eventually, there'll be other attacks, but it won't be for a long time. And it won't be on that scale, because now a precedent has been set that really hadn't happened since 1973 in the Yom Kippur War, when Israel was sneak attacked by 3 different countries, and it won in like 6 days. Well, this was not like that, but it's going to have the same effect, not on what we call states, even though Hamas does control their area, but also with Lebanon and Hezbollah. You're not going to see these rockets being fired at Israel anymore, and you're certainly not going to see them fired from Iran for a very, very long time. And Donald Trump has said that Israel has the right to win. And it is winning, and this is the best winning that's possible. If you found this video of value, please subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below if you think there can be a lasting peace. Maybe in your mind they can be. Maybe you have reasons for thinking that after the last, now over a year. Or maybe you think there'll be hostilities in the near future. And you can leave your reasons for thinking that too. Also, hit the bell for the notifications. And also, remember, history happens every day. Michael out.